Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on Joint Request for Selected Preventive Chemotherapy Medicines, JRSM. It has been developed by World Health Organization, WHO, to help countries to plan the implementation of preventive chemotherapy in an integrated and coordinated manner. It is built on WHO treatment guidelines and standard methodologies to ensure scientifically sound requests. The JRSM is an Excel-based tool that has several inbuilt functions that help its users analyze, validate, and customize information, and also generate the request for preventive chemotherapy medicines. This tutorial aims to explain the tool comprehensively to ensure that it is filled accurately and efficiently. It will walk you through the form and help you learn how to make a request for these preventive chemotherapy medicines by filling the form. The latest version of the JRSM can be downloaded from the WHO NTD website. The Joint Application Package is available in 3 languages: English, French, and Spanish. Download the Excel file WHO_JRSM_PC_v4.xlsm and save it on your computer. Double-click on this file to open it. To use the Excel sheet properly, you will need to open File Properties and enable the macros. Right-click on the file, go to Properties, select General, then go to Security at the end and check the Unblock box. Apply the change and click OK. After opening the file, click on Enable Content. If you do not enable macros, you will not be able to use the tool properly because all the macros included in the Excel-based tool will be disabled. Once you open the form, you will find yourself on the Intro worksheet. It provides you with an introduction to the purpose of the tool and explains the structure of the tool. Further, it provides instructions for data entry and elaborates on the meaning of color codes that you will see in the cells as you proceed with filling the sheets. This tool contains several worksheets, but when you open it for the first time, you will be able to see only the Intro worksheet, where you need to fill a few cells. Let us start with the color codes as explained in the Intro worksheet. While working with the tool, you need to be cognizant of the color coding of cells that are being filled. Most cells in the worksheets include formulae that are calculated automatically according to the treatment policy recommended by WHO for each disease. You will need to enter your data into the cells according to their color code. White-colored cells are not protected, and you will need to write the value of the requested indicator in white cells. Yellow-colored cells are protected and include the name of indicator. No data entry is required in these cells. Orange-colored cells are not protected. They include a drop-down menu for you to select the value from the drop-down list. Green-colored cells are not protected and include a formula. Please change the value only if your data are different from those that are calculated automatically. Blue-colored cells are protected and include a formula. No data entry is required in these cells. From this point, we will show you how to fill the form. While working with the tool, you will be using your own country data. For the purpose of demonstration, we will use the data from a fictitious country named Merconia. First of all, type the name of the country. Then you type the year for the request when PC medicines will be distributed. In our case, we will be using the year 2026. The next 4 rows refer to the endemicity of the 4 diseases. You will need to enter the data regarding the endemicity of 4 diseases for which preventive chemotherapy medicines are being requested. As suggested earlier, the orange cells have a drop-down menu and you need to select a value from the drop-down list. Place the cursor and click on the orange cells. The drop-down icon appears on the edge of the cells and the drop-down list will show you 3 options. Endemic. Endemic but preventive chemotherapy not required. Non-endemic. Select the appropriate endemicity status for your country from this drop-down list corresponding to the following diseases in the subsequent cells for lymphatic filariasis, onchocerciasis, soil-transmitted helminthiasis, schistosomiasis. The other worksheets will not appear until the endemicity status for the 4 diseases has been entered in the country info. They are dependent on the endemicity or coendemicity of the diseases. The form has been customized to present worksheets and indicators for diseases that are endemic in a particular country. For example, if a country is endemic only for one disease, they will be able to see only worksheets and indicators related to that disease. So, if the country is endemic for soil-transmitted helminthiasis, they will not see anything related to the lymphatic filariasis, onchocerciasis, and schistosomiasis. For illustration purposes, we are showing Merconia as endemic for all 4 diseases. Most of the countries implement preventive chemotherapy at the district level, which are the second administrative units. But in case of smaller countries, the implementation happens at the higher administrative levels, which can be province/state, or even at country level. Thus, the countries are asked to enter the number of administrative units, which could be national or subnational but should reflect the implementation level. Once this number is entered, the exact number of rows is created in the subsequent worksheets of this tool. The data for each of the administrative units can be entered in these rows. If no figure is entered in this cell, no action will be possible in the subsequent worksheets. Therefore, if the implementation is planned at the district level, you should enter the number of districts in the country. In case of Merconia, we will enter the number of districts as 25. After filling the information on endemicity of diseases and number of administrative units in the country, you will move to demographic data in the country. In case demographic data is not available for your country at the second administrative level, that is the district level, by age group, you may enter the percentage of population by age group. Enter the appropriate demographic information in the white cells as follows. Proportion of preschool-age children from 1 to 4 years of age, inclusive. Proportion of school-age children from 5 to 14 years of age, inclusive. Proportion of adults, 15 years of age and above. Women of reproductive age, 15 to 49 years. Please check to ensure that the total percentage for the first 3 categories does not exceed 100%. If their total exceeds 100%, the forms will not be generated until the error is corrected. This demographic data could be obtained from the National Census Bureau or the United Nations Population Database or provided upon request to pctdata@who.int. We can enter the data for Merconia in these rows. Proportion of preschool-age children, 12%. Proportion of school-age children, 25%. Proportion of adults, 60%. Women of reproductive age, 20%. Remember, if you have data disaggregated by age group at the administrative level targeted for implementation of preventive chemotherapy, then these cells need to be kept blank. Once all these steps have been completed, this page is considered complete. Place cursor on Generate New Form tab and click to automatically create forms in the subsequent worksheets. Some cells in the subsequent worksheets will be pre-filled as a consequence of the information entered on this page. The next sheet is the Country Info worksheet. In this worksheet, you will need to fill information about the administrative structure of your country, population, status of endemicity for each disease, population requiring PC, and planned interventions. Subsequently, worksheets have been provided for individual drugs, that is, albendazole and mebendazole, praziquantel, and ivermectin. These types of medicine were selected based on the coendemicity of the diseases present in the country. For example, if a country is not endemic for onchocerciasis, then a worksheet for diethylcarbamazine citrate will be generated instead of a worksheet for ivermectin. For more details on types of preventive chemotherapy and medicines, please see Tutorial 1. The generated worksheets related to medicines, such as albendazole/mebendazole, praziquantel, and ivermectin, include information about endemic districts targeted for treatment with specified preventive chemotherapy medicines, treatment plan, and the number of tablets required and requested. The summary worksheet includes summary of the number of tablets requested, available stocks, and sources from where preventive chemotherapy medicines have been requested. On this worksheet, the country should also provide planned dates for implementation and availability of funds to conduct mass drug administration. The last worksheet is on shipment and consignee, where details of consignee or consignees, if there is more than one consignee, need to be provided. Alongside any details on import requirements also need to be furnished. Notify WHO immediately of any change in consignee details, as incorrect information may delay getting clearance. In the Country Info worksheet, you can see that the name of the country is already pre-filled, based on the information provided in the intro worksheet. Also, based on the number of administrative units provided in the intro worksheet, exactly 25 rows have been created. As suggested in the intro worksheet, the information needs to be filled in the white cells as requested. Therefore, you will need to enter the name of the first administrative level unit in the country in column province/state. After that, you need to enter the name of the second administrative level unit in the country, which is usually the district, in the column district. The Country Info worksheet is the key worksheet, where you will need to enter the population data for each of the districts. We can enter the following data for Marconia. Province South. District Astori. Population 89,530 people. Province South. District Broadsea. Population 354,934 people. Similarly, data can be entered for the other districts of Marconia. Once the names of the provinces and districts, and their total populations have been entered, the blue row on top titled Total will automatically calculate the cumulative population. Please note that since we have entered the proportions of different age group categories in the intro worksheet, the total population by age group category will automatically be calculated in columns pre-SAC, SAC, and adults, once the total population has been entered for each district. If population data of each administrative unit at the level targeted for preventive chemotherapy implementation is available by age and proportion of different age group categories in the worksheet, and the demographic data in the intro worksheet has been left empty, then the available data needs to be entered in the columns pre-SAC, SAC, and adults under the heading Population. This age-wise calculation of population is crucial as specific groups are targeted for certain diseases. For example, for soil-transmitted helminthiasis, only preschool-aged children and school-aged children are targeted. For schistosomiasis, only school-aged children and adults are targeted, and for others it's the entire population of the endemic implementation units. The total of the subnational level figures is automatically calculated in the row total of this worksheet for the indicator population and population requiring preventive chemotherapy, respectively. When all the data on population are entered by administrative unit, The information in row total represents the total figures at the national level of each population indicator. The next step will be to provide data on endemicity of the targeted diseases. Each disease in the endemicity section has been assigned codes. Once you hover the cursor to the name of the disease, you will be able to see that an explanation has been provided for each of the codes. You will notice that the codes used for lymphatic filariasis and onchocerciasis are the same, and the codes for soil-transmitted helminthiasis and schistosomiasis are different. This is the coding table for the 4 diseases: lymphatic filariasis and onchocerciasis. 0. Non-endemic. 1. Endemic. 4. Status unknown. 19. Endemic pending impact survey. 99. Cleared tasks, no longer require PC. Soil-transmitted helminthiasis. 0. Non-endemic. 4. Status unknown. 5. Endemic prevalence unknown. Baseline survey. 1. Low prevalence, less than 20%, no MDA. 2. Moderate prevalence, 20% to 49%, 1 round annually. 3. High prevalence, 50% and above, 2 rounds annually. Impact survey. 99. Prevalence less than 2%, surveillance. 11. Prevalence 2% to 9%, 1 round every 2 years. 21. Prevalence 10% to 19%, 1 round annually. 22. Prevalence 20% to 49%, keep baseline frequency. 31. Prevalence greater than or equal to 50%, 3 rounds annually. Schistosomiasis. 0. Non-endemic. 4. Status unknown. 5. Endemic prevalence unknown. Baseline survey. 1. Low prevalence, less than 10%, no MDA. 2. Moderate prevalence, 10% to 49%, 1 round annually. 3. High prevalence, 50% and above, 1 round annually and hot spots with additional round. Impact survey. 99. Prevalence less than 1%, surveillance. 11. Prevalence 1% to 9%, 1 round of treatment every 2 to 3 years. 21. Prevalence 10% to 49%, 1 round annually. 31. Prevalence greater than or equal to 50%, 1 round annually and hot spots with additional round. It's very important to enter the correct code which represents most recent available epidemiological data. Implementing strategy and required amount of tablets depends on coding selected for each endemic disease. To assign values for each of the districts, you should place the cursor on each orange cell under the disease to reveal the drop-down arrow, which presents the coding, and then select the endemicity status for each disease in every district. You can see that when we enter endemicity information for the target district in the columns LF, Onco, STH, and SCH, the cells under the heading Population requiring preventive chemotherapy are automatically filled with the number of individuals that require treatment for each of the diseases. These figures are calculated based on epidemiological data, and these estimates can be used by program managers to plan for the next year treatment taking into account the available resources. As an example, since we enter non-endemic as endemicity status under LF, the population requiring preventive chemotherapy for lymphatic filariasis is 0-2. For onchocerciasis, since the district has been shown as endemic, the Onco column has taken the entire population as given for the district. Had the status for onchocerciasis been shown as unknown, then the population requiring preventive chemotherapy would also show as unknown. For schistosomiasis, the number of people requiring treatment is calculated based on the endemicity status 2, which is moderate prevalence, requiring 1 round of treatment annually. As specified earlier, the data in columns with blue coding cannot be changed. Therefore, for diseases such as lymphatic filariasis and soil-transmitted helminthiasis, the entire population of the target groups require preventive chemotherapy. Whereas, for onchocerciasis and for schistosomiasis, there are some tips. For onchocerciasis, though the cell takes the complete district population by default, the cell is green-colored, which means it is editable. In case onchocerciasis is distributed in a focal area in the district, the number of people living in those areas can be provided in the cell, as the complete population does not require treatment. As an illustration, we can take the case of Opafural and Rustichel, districts with a high population. In these districts, the whole population may not require treatment for onchocerciasis. We can adjust the population and mention a figure for people who require treatment. Same is the case of schistosomiasis, where the population data can be adjusted, depending on the number of people requiring treatment. In case population requiring preventive chemotherapy for schistosomiasis is not available by age group in some implementation units, you can enter total population requiring preventive chemotherapy for schistosomiasis and click Estimate Population for SCH by Age Group tab. The tool will estimate the numbers by age groups based on proportions of each age group in those districts. In the African region, a Schisto workbook is used. It is a separate Excel-based tool used to compile data at the community or sub-district level. This workbook can generate totals and prevalence-adjusted population denominators for schistosomiasis, which must then be pasted into this form. This aspect is very critical and needs to be kept in mind while filling the form, as the numbers projected in this joint request form will be used to estimate the number of medicines for treatment of each of the diseases. The next column on this worksheet is the number of treatment rounds planned for the year. All orange rows in columns LF, Onco, STH, and SCH need to be filled to indicate the number of treatment rounds planned for the year for which the medicines are requested. Using the drop-down arrow for each cell, please select the treatment rounds as planned for implementation of preventive chemotherapy in each of the administrative units. The options are 0 for no treatment, 1 for 1 round of treatment per year, 2 for 2 rounds of treatment per year, and 3 for 3 rounds of treatment. Please note that sometimes, even if the disease is endemic, the country might not have enough resources to implement the whole treatment plan and will need to adjust it according to the available resources and the national strategy documents. On top, right next to the Estimate Population for SCH by Age Group tab is the Validate tab. Once the Validate tab is clicked, it immediately highlights any issues that might need to be addressed in the country info sheet. For example, if too many rounds of treatment have been planned according to the selected endemicity, the Validate feature points to the errors. Once the Validate tab is clicked, it highlights all the errors in red. Once the errors have been rectified and there are no highlights, one can assume that the information filled in the sheet is correct and proceed to the next sheet. As an illustration, District Astori is endemic for lymphatic filariasis and onchocerciasis, and has moderate prevalence of schistosomiasis. According to the plan, this district will require 1 round of treatment for lymphatic filariasis and onchocerciasis implemented in integrated manner, and 1 round of treatment for schistosomiasis for selected school-aged children. If more rounds are planned, the Validate tab will highlight the mistake. Lastly, on the country info worksheet, countries need to give an indication of the districts where epidemiological surveys have been planned in the year for which preventive chemotherapy medicines have been requested. You will need to select the values from the drop-down menu to indicate the action planned. If no such activities are planned, please leave the cells blank. Once you have completed the country info worksheet, a substantial part of the work is done. You are now ready to enter information regarding the need for individual medicines used for preventive chemotherapy. There are 3 worksheets for the preventive chemotherapy medicines for the current coendemicity status. ALB_MBD for albendazole and mebendazole. PZQ for praziquantel. IVM for ivermectin. Depending on endemicity information provided, you may need to fill in either all worksheets or only some of them. Please note that there is a special joint request for selected PC medicines form that should be used for countries endemic for loiasis. This form is designed in a similar way and allows countries to request albendazole to implement 1 or 2 rounds of treatment for lymphatic filariasis and implementation units coendemic with loiasis. This form is used by several countries from the African region and can be downloaded like the other forms from the WHO NTD website. The ALB_MBD worksheet is used to compute the quantity of albendazole and/or mebendazole tablets required to implement preventive chemotherapy in a given year. This worksheet is generated only when the country is endemic for lymphatic filariasis and/or soil-transmitted helminthiasis, based on information entered in the intro and country info worksheets. You can see that a large part of this worksheet is automatically filled, basis the information provided. Please note that the calculations for albendazole for treatment by the soil-transmitted helminthiasis program will also take into consideration requests made by the lymphatic filariasis program, which also uses albendazole. In the column Select Medicine for treatment of STH for each age group, you should select the medicine you wish to request for treatment of soil-transmitted helminthiasis for each age group. From the drop-down menu, you can choose between albendazole and mebendazole for preschool-aged and school-aged children, whereas for women of reproductive age, mebendazole is the only given option. The number of treatment rounds planned for the year by the implementation level, as entered in the worksheet country info, are presented for LF and STH in the columns Treatment Plan for LF and STH, respectively. It needs to be reiterated that medicines are used for the treatment of lymphatic filariasis and soil-transmitted helminthiasis in a coordinated manner, according to the treatment plan entered in country info worksheet. In the district where LF is endemic, denoted by code 1, and STH is not endemic, or prevalence of any STH is low, denoted by code 0 or 1, such as the case for District Astori, 1 round of treatment with albendazole is required for LF, targeting the eligible population living in that district. In the districts where LF is endemic and prevalence of any STH is moderate, for example District Broadsea, 1 round of treatment with albendazole is required for LF, targeting school-aged children and adults living in that district. This round of treatment with albendazole will also cover school-aged population for STH. In the districts where LF is endemic and prevalence of STH is high, for example District Kenichi, 1 round of treatment with albendazole is required for LF, targeting school-aged children and adults living in that district, and 2 rounds with albendazole or mebendazole are required to treat STH in the same district, targeting preschool-aged children and school-aged children living in the district. In such a case, 1 round of albendazole administration will be received through the LF program, which will target all the school-aged children and adults in the district, and 1 additional round of treatment with albendazole or mebendazole for STH is required for school-aged children. For preschool-age children in the district, where such children are not eligible for treatment with ivermectin through LF program, number of rounds of treatment with albendazole or mebendazole will be required through STH program according to the treatment plan. By default, number of rounds planned for treatment of soil-transmitted helminthiasis is linked to data entered in the country info. It's applicable for all target groups according to coendemicity, but for preschool-age children and women of reproductive age the number of rounds can be revised manually. This may happen, for example, if the country doesn't have enough resources to implement preventive chemotherapy for these groups. Also, you can see here white cells where countries can enter data on the remaining medicine that they have, which will be deducted from the request quantity. If you have information on the remaining stock of albendazole and mebendazole tablets by administrative unit, you can enter this information in the tool as this amount gets subtracted from the requested amount. In case this information is not available, the cells should be left blank. When you have entered the relevant information for all districts in the country, this worksheet is completed. The total of the figures at the implementation unit level is automatically calculated in the row total for each numerical indicator of this worksheet representing the total figures at national level. The PZQ worksheet is used to compute the quantity of praziquantel tablets required to implement preventive chemotherapy in a given year. A large part of this worksheet is automatically filled, based on the information entered in intro and country info worksheets. The number of treatment rounds planned for the year for schistosomiasis by the implementation level, entered in the country info worksheet, is presented in the column treatment plan. The praziquantel worksheet has a hotspots tab. Hotspots are specific areas within an endemic district, for example a village, which have a very high prevalence of the disease. Such districts may require some extra treatment. If you look at the endemicity columns in the country info worksheet, you will find some recommendations to treat the hotspots. In such cases we need to enter yes for the district and also enter the population of the hotspots. This population would require a second round of treatment. When we click on the Hotspots tab, we can see that some districts are blocked with gray. These districts are not endemic or not targeted for treatment, and therefore do not require to enter data for the hotspots. If some districts had implemented preventive chemotherapy in last 1 or 2 years, enter the number of rounds and target age groups in the following columns. This information is important to see the frequency of implementation, especially in those districts which require 1 round every 2 to 3 years. Please note that the column pre-SAC is also colored gray, since the donation of praziquantel tablets currently does not target this age group. Finally, proceed to enter the number of praziquantel tablets remaining in stock at each administrative unit based on available information. In case this information is not available, the cells should be left blank. When you have entered the relevant information for all districts in the country, this worksheet is complete. The total of the figures at implementation unit is automatically calculated in the row total for each numerical indicator of this worksheet representing the total figures at national level. The IVM worksheet is used to compute the quantity of ivermectin tablets required to implement preventive chemotherapy in a given year. This worksheet is generated only when the country is endemic for onchocerciasis. You can see that the worksheet is almost filled, based on the information entered in the intro and country info worksheets. The only data to be entered manually on this form, if available, is remaining in stock under the heading ivermectin, IVM. The number of treatment rounds planned for the year for lymphatic filariasis and onchocerciasis by implementation level, entered in the worksheet country info, is presented in the column treatment plan, LF and Onco. You can see that if there is a treatment plan for lymphatic filariasis, the population eligible for treatment of the administrative unit will be targeted, no matter whether there is a treatment plan for onchocerciasis or not. Depending on co-endemicity, the tool will estimate number of tablets to be distributed in only LF or onchocerciasis endemic areas and in areas where these diseases are overlapping. Finally, proceed to enter the number of ivermectin tablets remaining in stock at each administrative unit based on available information. In case this information is not available, the cell should be left blank. After you have gone through all the worksheets and completed any additional information that was required, you can proceed to the summary sheet. As the sheet suggests, the request for preventive chemotherapy medicines should be made at least 9 months before the first date of mass drug administration, MDA, that is planned in the calendar year of the request. You will need to provide information under 3 main heads: information on PC medicines requested to WHO, in which some columns need to be filled; number of people to be treated with donated medicine, which is autofilled; information on planned PC interventions. Here the dates of different rounds need to be filled. When filling the information on PC medicines requested to WHO section, the target group column provides notes against each target group, which explains the quantity of the tablets needed per person for each group. After this, you need to click the Generate Request tab. Once you click this tab, you will see the details of the tablets required, based on the information entered in the country info and all the other worksheets. In the information on PC medicines requested table, under number of tablets, there are 4 columns: required, in stock, in pipeline, and requested. They are explained in the comments added to the cells. Each medicine is pre-calculated in the required column based on the information provided in the earlier sheets. In case you have national level information on stocks, you can enter the information in the in stock column for each medicine. For example, if you have 1 million ivermectin tablets, you can enter the number, and it will be deducted from the number requested. In the column, in pipeline, you can enter the information on the number of tablets that have been requested previously, and have been approved for the country to receive, but have not yet arrived in the country, that is, they are not yet in stock. These medicines should be entered here in order to avoid duplicating the request. WHO cross-checks the stock figures you report against last year's data provided in the joint reporting form and approved shipments. Once you enter this number in the relevant cell, the number will change accordingly in the requested column. If you are not sure what WHO medicines have already been ordered and are currently in the pipeline, please email your query to pctdata@who.in for confirmation. The amount reflected in the requested column will be considered to be shipped to the countries. Specify source cell explains that countries need to specify the source of the medicine that has been requested, for example, WHO, UNICEF, local procurement, NGO, or others. The source needs to be filled in all the rows where medicines have been requested. Some age groups, for example adults and women of reproductive age, may not receive donated medicines. WHO reviews these requests case by case based on epidemiology and availability. Next, on the same sheet, you will need to fill the planned dates for the first and second rounds of preventive chemotherapy and the date by which the medicines should arrive in the national warehouse. The month and year need to be selected from the drop-down menu for each of the medicine that has been requested. The arrival of medicines in the national warehouse should ideally be 2 months prior to the month in which the first round of treatment has been planned. There are 3 types of information that should be submitted as a package of documentation for the joint request. This includes the joint request for selected PC medicines, the joint reporting form, and the PC Epidemiological Data Reporting Form. Using the cursor, tick each of the checklist boxes to indicate that the information and required documents above have been obtained and will be submitted along with the request for medicines. Availability of funding for implementation should be included in the space provided under the heading Availability of Funding for Implementation in the year for which the medicines have been requested. Funding information needs to be provided based on the total number of treatments planned. This is important since some donors may not provide medicines if the country does not provide details about the availability of funds to ensure distribution of medicines. The reason being that the shelf life for some medicines is short, and they need to be distributed in a time-bound manner. Thus, in the funding secured for column, we can either enter all or provide a number of treatments for which funding has been secured. It is important to present this information with either exact or estimate figures to confirm that financial resources are already available to support distribution of the donated medicines to communities. In the next column, that is source, the source of funding should be entered, and the last column is amount, which is not mandatory for countries to fill. Now you have almost completed filling in the form. This form constitutes an official government request to WHO for the supply of the medicines. The form should therefore be completed by the National NTD Control Coordinator in the Ministry of Health. Where such a coordinator is absent, the completion of the form should be carried out by each of the disease-specific focal points for their respective part. The final request must be approved by the Ministry of Health. Under the rose subject, information on person or persons who have filled in the form, place the cursor on the orange cell to reveal the drop-down menu of options for persons who should be involved in filling this form. Select the appropriate title of the officers who have provided the information used in this tool for the year of the request that is being submitted. Enter their names, current telephone contact, email, and the date for which this information is valid. Read the WHO data sharing policy by clicking on the Read Statement tab. Similarly, the Read Before Submission statement needs to be read to ensure that all data components required in the form are completed and the request is ready for submission. Missing some of these important parameters may cause a delay of approval of the request and therefore shipment of tablets. If any errors are discovered after submission, the revised form should be sent to WHO before review. The next section of the form to be completed is signature by the national authority in the Ministry of Health authorizing the request to be formally submitted. The signatures of the NTD coordinator or the Ministry of Health representative are mandatory to enact formal authorization of the request. The request should be submitted once annually. WHO does not recommend submitting multiple versions in the same year. Please do not forget to enter information regarding the shipment of different donated medicines in the worksheet shipment. The delivery of the different types of donated medicines to the recipient may not occur all at the same time. As such, there could be more than one consignee or delivery point for the medicines requested. Underneath there is a section regarding information on import requirement. This is optional in case a country needs to procure an import permit. They can opt for either a yes or a no option. If the response is yes, then you need to give the time frame on how long it takes to get an import permit and requirement for any documentation to be submitted together with the import permit application that can support the request. If you have any additional information, it can be provided at the bottom of the page. This is optional. When all this information is completed, please go back to the summary sheet to save the file. The file can be saved in Excel for any edit or update at a later stage, and to make changes later. For this, the file needs to be stored in XLSM format, since XLSX format does not support macros. Also, When you click on Save Request in Excel, it provides you information on what needs to be completed before the request can be submitted. Once clicked, the file nomenclature includes the name of the country, type of the form, year of the request, and then the current date when the form was completed. This way, various versions with updates can be saved. A PDF file can be created for the summary and the shipment worksheets. This needs to be printed and signed, and sent back to WHO together with the Excel file. This completes the tutorial on how to complete the joint request form for selected preventive chemotherapy medicines. If you still have some remaining questions, you can see this tutorial again. We wish you good luck.